Okay, better start recording now before the kitty terror comes back, starts bumping all the cameras and equipment. Welcome back here at the World of Mush. The official theme sketch for our World of Mush adventure. My first couple days off in probably a long time, probably all year. So yeah, I thought we'd pick up finishing off some costume and polymorphism, some body shape equipable designs for the cat. I'm gonna do the morel mushroom, which you could see over here on camera. This is done with the Apoxie Sculpt. So I mix them up. It's already hardening, but I just gotta warm it back up and try and, it kind of doesn't hold its shape there. It's very gummy. I'm not surprised. So I'm gonna start off like in the transition area through here. Transition where the different caps he wears will blend and morph into the shape of his top of his skull there. So let's just start applying our chewed bubblegum pieces to the cap. Oh, I just realized I can't move too far from the mic because got a fancy new mic. There we go. There's Kitty. Yeah, you gonna jump back in here? Let's say hi, Nixie. Where's she at? There she is. Yeah, you're on camera. Of course, when she's on camera, she'll totally go silent. Yeah. Studio Kitty. All right. So yeah, it gets this transition. I'm trying to get these ridges done first before I do anything. So every time Mush returns to the laboratory with hopefully a new spore. Yeah, so I'm gonna put these on now. I let it sit for a few minutes, hoping it would make it a little easier to work with, but we'll find out. I don't know. So far, it's feeling like it might be less tacky. Like it's not actually sticking as well now. So that may or may not have backfired, but we'll find out. I think as I put this on here, if I wet it, yeah, if I wet the tool just a tiny bit, it'll release from the material. Let me press a little harder and smaller. So I'm using a lot of the small ball tips again. So for any of you out there that got the Apoxie Sculpt 2-part, that's what I'm using right now. There we go. Yeah, it's a bit better. So pressing it down, and once I get it on there, I can roll a lot of little noodles. Like I said, it's almost like bubble gum, chewed bubble gum. So y'all enjoying some of this amazing music by Stephen Clark. Yeah, man, it's not sticking a thing. Alright. Not. Yeah, I did kind of think that might happen, so let's see. Yeah, let's get the big, easy ridge parts that kind of, these big, flat pieces that kind of flattened out. I want to pick up some of the edgier pieces like you see on my reference over here. So I'm going to pinch those together and then pinch underneath so that it's really grabbing the epoxy, the clay below it, and then kind of pushing it forward to get kind of a more mass at the top of it and a little thinner underneath. That's what I'm shooting for at the moment. And then there's some overlap you'll see in the morels. Now the little cavities and holes in here, I'm going to go take it out back with the Dremel. I love the echoey water droplets. Yeah, it's going to be letting loose spores. You're going to be able to grow and scale the size of the mushroom cap a bit, and then he'll also be able to expel spores from the top of the head. So he'll have different type of psychocilio psychic spores. So if the mycozoid creatures can have different powers based on what spores they're incorporating to their body and their system, the cap is going to be one of these equipable items that you have to integrate with, and you can trade caps with people. It would be like a sacred act, like almost like sharing memories or capabilities or things like that. And so we'll have Frux, the gardener, will have a moment where he shares some spores and maybe shares his cap. And when you don the cap, there's a transference and takes time. It's not just a instantaneous thing. So it'll be one of those things you go back to the lab, gain some spores, and then maybe decide if you want to switch out your cap depending on which adventure you're going on. So we'll keep playing around with that idea. That was fun too. Inside the cap we'll have some caps that are very almost like cultivating. What's the word I'm looking for? They almost serve as like a little carrying pod for whatever you're collecting out there. So there we go. Yeah, the water helps release it, not stick. It's hydrophobic, not hydrophilic. So as I'm sticking this on there, I'm like wetting the tip of the tool and hoping that it will enable it to release where I'm pressing, but stick where I'm pushing to if it's not sticking to the surface right away. So yeah, so inside the cavities and grooves here, you have little sprouts. It's just a storage unit. You'll have little sprouts of other mushrooms coming off from around the top and the crown. And then we might even do like a little cerebral map, so to speak, of the brain, the other one that I had here. There's a little brain I'm working on. Brain fungus cap, little antlers that come out. This is done with cost clay. Right, so we have the cost clay here, extra firm, so that will be second one. And then we'll have a basic one, of course. We'll have his kind of inflatable cap that blows up and lets him glide. A lot of parallels to Link, I'm sure, in here. But, and then the Legend of Zelda games, which I'm fine with. So this one will come across right here. Yeah, I think I'm going to focus on one side for right now, since I pre-rolled this. You just knocked it. And then I'll see how well everything's sticking. And then, because you got a working time with this epoxy, you've got just a couple minutes, and so not a couple minutes. You got an hour, but it goes by so fast. Like it goes by super slow when you don't want it to, and then all of a sudden, bam! It's going by super fast. So still getting the hang on the epoxy when to time it just right. But what's cool with the epoxy, I was gonna say, you can oven bake it with the cost clay on top of it, 270, which you can't do with the Magic Sculpt. So discovering the limitations here of each one, what it can and can't do. If I get water on the wrong side of that, I gotta be careful. Make sure the side down there I want to stick has something to stick to, and then the side up here. So I'm creating those deeper cavities and rivulets you see inside my reference over there. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the little sound that went with that. Let's see how the volume plays. So right here, you see it's kind of caving in from the profile. So I got to bring this ridge way up and create some depth there. For sure. Right, let's do that. So I'm going to really bulk this up here. Making sure I got a nice dry sticky piece that's going to stick to something as it's pushing on there. Give it some undulations. We're going to pinch and rock it back and forth. See, I mean, this is the kind of stuff you just can't do on a computer. So doing a physical study might feel like a waste of time, but I vehemently disagree with that and think that making a real maquette of a main character you're working on should be required. Because by the time you're done with it and it moves and transforms, I think the real world tactile parts of it are going to really make the ZBrush sculpt this pretty spectacular. I'm hoping it's everything I wish it would be. Because I'll know what I'm doing. I'll have worked through his physicality. Like I had like a great big mushroom cap on him. This huge, like, you know, the initial design was like wider than he is tall. I wanted to really almost like a discus throw, like had a lot more flight and gliding. And then every time his head moved in a little bit, the cap just like, there's so much extra movement. Like the secondary animation, secondary movement on that was so intense that I decided that it was just a bad design. It was a design I had originally when he had a tiny, tiny little body and a great big cap head, and that was for more of a mobile phone side scroll version of this, which we can still do, you know, once you have an IP and your mushroom world design, you can easily, not easily, but you can take that design and transfer it over to other platforms, make subtle design changes that make sense for the platform. So that could make sense if I wanted a great big head, little body. But for a stop motion character, for this one, for doing a full-on posable, this is a stop motion size character kit. The gravity and the weight, it just didn't make sense. Now this is already maybe too tall now. It's like there is a significant weight to this, but I'm gonna 3D print it, mold it, cast it in foam, so it'll be light. And it's more, but it will, you know, it's gonna move a lot when he shakes his head, when he bends over to pick up something. So maybe we'll run a scale where it scales down to be shorter, tighter, and scales back up. So maybe a smaller version of this, or I'll just do it on the computer after I've explored enough with the physical maquette design, and then I'll take it in and, you know, make 20 copies of it and just use the digital side for what its strengths are, which are replication and exploration within design space with certain ideas. So I'm using another thing I learned with this is it's good to maybe wet the tip of both ends and just push both sides if I want to preserve a shape, but still got that gummy that I need to be pushing from both sides to get that shape that I want. So there you go. So that works very nicely. But I had to get it on there first and then do the subtle shaping. But the way the timing works with this, it's really challenging with this much detail to remember where the epoxy's been setting for only 20-30 minutes or where it's been setting for a full hour or hour and a half without touching it. And like touching all of these crenulations and nooks and crannies is it's a difficult design to pull off. So I'm trying to exhibit some patience here. There we got that front crown, there we got that little curve coming forward. More right there. I think that works well. I think we could have more bowing out towards here at the end. So we'll see. It's kind of how I have this one over here. And looking at that one, there's a fun, the curve comes down and out more towards the bottom. This one's a little more tree-like where they come up and flare up. and this one's got a nice clean look to it. So I'm really using all three of these designs together as I'm adding this on to see which direction I want to take this. So let's create more separation right here in the front and get that curve coming out. So I'm going to apply some more pieces here in the front, some little bubble gum. Hopefully it sticks more to the clay than to my fingers. And as soon as I get it on there, I'm going to switch over to my tool. There you go. And then do another one. So one on this side, one on the other side. So I want more little crowns and cavities in there. Let's see how stiff this is getting now. Yeah, let's roll a little noodle of it. Bring it in here again. And there we go. Try and keep some of the cell wall, if you will. Best way of putting it. And then try and blend them together. I'll use my tool to get that a little tighter. So right in here, there's no sense using my finger there. I'll just get my little tray of water and then squeeze on both sides. All right, there's Kitty right in time to stick her neck inside the camera crane. Thank you, Kitty. There's a little water dish, so I'm just dipping the tip of the balls and tool in there as I go. She's so adorable. Come back. No, okay. Let's see, where was I? Oh yes, pressing both sides slightly. Putting a little bit of water on there, making sure that's adhered firmly first, and then I can press, and then the tool will release whilst the epoxy clay will retain its stickiness to whatever's below it. I'm going to get in this little canyon right here. I get the smaller tip. So I think this particular part in the process has really taught me a lot of patience to let the design, which is good at this case. Like I'm designing as I go for sure. Right, so I have to hold backside and then add a lot of these little rounded kind of cavities going this way. Goes. I can guide. Whoop, there it came loose. So be careful, and it does that, and this water gets in, it'll release. So once it's free, I gotta kind of dry it with my finger a little, and then just press down. Solid piece. See, it's just coming off. It's annoying. Damn. Okay, let's see if that is the water that's causing it or what. Yeah, and I think I thought I would have at least 10-20 minutes when I first mix it, but it's that original tackiness it has, it only lasts about 10 minutes, maybe 15 it turns out. So note to self, so if I can't shape it, if I'm like lucky enough just to get this to adhere, right? Yeah. I'll just move on to another piece of the sculpture I know I need just to build something up, and maybe I'll even like remix it in some other. There we go. And I read up on the chemical properties. I was getting it mixed initially and not wearing gloves, and then the more I read, it's like, yeah, wear gloves. So darn, you know, I should maybe mix up less of it. Would help. And because it is sticking to my gloves, which is really freaking annoying, I'm gonna take the chemical heat, so to speak, and take my gloves off. And keep going. I only have this much left to add on to there. Okay, race against the epoxy clock here for the next 10 minutes. Let's see what we can get done. These ridges up higher. And cool. Okay, yeah. Even the tiniest bit of water. Even the tiniest little bit of water in there seemed to make a big So get it on first, it appears. Get it, at least the basic shape stuck on there, and then shape it with the tool in the water. Just add this long piece right here. There we go. So I'm really getting some rich canyons of space in there, which is what I was going for. And the silhouette's starting to pop up much, much better. Keep building that. But see, yeah, you mean adding strips is a kind of classic, age-old sculpting technique. And so I think adding these little bubblegum strips on there, they're nice and well attached. I can still flex them a little and then press on each side with the tool like I was originally planning. I just kind of remember, you have to remember constructing. So why, you know, learn all this stuff doing real world sculptures, that you'll learn that you have, there's a time, there's a process, there's the time constraints give you design constraints, which makes for better and more interesting designs. Yeah, there we go. Come around here. I got some great texture underneath all this already, and one things I'll make a note to myself, speaking of design constraints, is to remember to try and preserve and accentuate a lot of these little valleys and impressions I made back in there last night when I go to Dremel it and doing some of that negative sculpture, which you do on stone and wood. Love doing negative shape sculpture and carving techniques. Once I do that, I'll have to make a note to myself not to overdo it and to be sure and just start by taking away a little bit here and there, and not just taking a ton of subtractive sculpture can be like that. It's very easy to, excuse me, it's very easy to overdo it and carve more than you wanted to. And man, with this stuff is great because you can just stick it back on, but that's also can make it kind of dangerous to work with the two parts by cure. Because then you think you can just do it again, which is what I tend to do. Yeah, that can be a problem if you're trying to get something done. Yeah. But that's what makes this more of a fine art project and a nonprofit than worrying about hard dates, at least right for now. Well, once we get it in the game and work and get some cutscenes, then that'll change everything, right? I can still see metal shining through there, so you gotta watch out for little shiny metal pieces too. So I'll just kind of layer an extra piece, get it in there, try and get it to not stick to my finger. There we go. And press that in with the tool. On the other side over here, right up there. Let's see, bring this up a tiny bit. And press the back side of the tool. There it goes. Now, as it stiffens, the other thing, remembering where you were, which ones are new. Definitely had some trouble with that last night. I was mixing too much at once and then forgetting where I was or having to go back, and then just getting that clock and that timer stuff figured out with the Apoxie Sculpt. Yeah, caused a bit of trouble. There we go. So now I'm getting the tool. So here's what I'm doing though. I'm tooling this right now. What I should be doing is getting the rest of that Apoxie Sculpt on before it gets too stiff to adhere to the base body, right? So I still have, yep, there it goes, this much to add on. So let's do that first and come back to those other techniques I started. But yeah, silhouette's coming out better here. It's curved back in, like here a bit more still. So, but I want to stay with the front for right now. So that way I don't lose track of where I was. There we go. Pinching and pressing it on there. Get on there. Come on. Yeah, I'll do some more reading later today. The Apoxie Sculpt release. It's once it gets in my fingers, it's sticking. You can see my fingerprints all over this thing. For better, for worse. Doing horizontal piece across in there before it gets too cavernous. So I'll maybe just put a little ball in there. Maybe that makes sure the tool tip is dry. I can go in here and where did it go? See if it'll stick this time. It's really deep in there. There it goes. Jeez. Yeah, it's in the tips of my fingers now. Don't tell the hazmat team. There we go. Squish, squish, back and forth, then bring it up to the side. There we go. Bring it up to the side here. That's pretty. That's an interesting side lattice, horizontal piece. Right here, I don't have a lot of my, started getting one in there too. So as I do that, I'll add more to it. Like on like, the newer pieces should be sticking to themselves better than there, put water, shoot. See, it just goes right into the crevices. Let's see if this works. There it goes, actually working there. And there's some slight overlap, so as it goes here, I want to kind of go under ever so slightly this piece next to it, this one. So have it go down. I don't want the bridge between them straight. I want, it should be like some level change happening there, so to speak. All right, more to do. Make your hands move as fast as your mouth. I was told once long ago. There we go. Get this piece on there next. And there we go. The adhesion's working out much better. There it goes. I got a lot more ridge. Just added all of this detail here and all this detail there. And then while these are still tacky and nice and strong, you know, bring that ridge and get that connection down here again to the head face cap. Kind of like where the cranium attaches to the face. One way of looking at this. There's a few more pieces I can add on there. There we go. Yeah, it's pretty dope. Like it. These little crown pieces that kind of flare off the side. I was thinking, as I started designing it, I wanted to accentuate the slots, so to speak, and like little tendrils that kind of come down, and almost like a neural network, right? Like the dendrites. That's one of the design elements of the game, is kind of linking together interesting, you know, new discoveries and knowledge of fungi and how it works, the mycelium network, and kind of making these mycelium and the hyphae and the pieces that are part of it, kind of correlating those to the dendrites and neurons and things you find in mammalian cells, right? So we're making up a new, somewhat of some new psychology, right? Strangeness of the world of mushrooms. The animal, plant, and fungi kingdom classifications. We're going to have a whole another set of creatures that hybridize between those. And I think that's going to be a lot of the fun. And if people want to follow along and make their own versions, we'll figure that out with the open source part. There we go. Yeah, it comes down nice right there. Might even have some sort of sensory, like ear. These are, I thought of these almost as ear pieces originally and kind of went away from that. So I might come back to that. There we go. So yeah, it's getting in there. It's sticking better. Bridge some more like horizontal lattice pieces. At least get them started. At least get them to adhere well, so I know they're not going to fall apart, fall out when I'm shaping them. There we go. Yep. It really, when it does or doesn't bond is still very tricky, and I'm getting aggressive there, and I'm messing up my monster clay, which is okay. This is my prototypey. I'm not gonna mess them up on purpose, but also I'm okay. Like when I made this little spore mask on his face that had made some indentations on the monster clay, and I had to, it's wax, I just had to go touch it up. So it's, I'm constantly touching up this prototype maquette until I get the perfect 3D scan. And then, yeah, and if the 3D scanning stuff becomes problematic, then we will very simply just ZBrush them 100%. And from this very fun maquette design, it'll go fast. Press that in there. Hope it takes. There it goes. Bring it up again, up here. And press that in there. Okay, so I'm gonna let this sit in just a minute here. I'm almost, I can pinch them together now. See what kind of curls and twists you can get with the pinching. Pinching between my fingernails. I'm trying just about everything. I got a little bit left. And then, yeah, just in the spirit of being patient, I will just finish this one and move on, maybe back to the brain, the cosplay, and just let it sit, let it breathe for a minute. Don't, try and catch and run around and catching which parts are, newer, which parts have been sitting for an hour, which parts I can and can't tool. If I just kind of run around and tool what I just made, these higher, it's easiest to spot the highest ridges right now. So I think definitely it will make life way easier if I just work with what I put on now, not mix a new batch up and have it sitting while I'm doing that. I was trying to like pace all that out earlier, and then as I was saying, it just became a big. Now it was a fun part of the design process. So there we go. So yeah, that front looking pretty good right here. I could see right here it's a little caves in a little. I could maybe curve back out even a little bit more as well. Bring that out. Right here, and then pinch as I go, pinch and pull. And man, this will be fun to ZBrush, the version. I got some custom stamps in mind already. I go down there on purpose. Let's see, or did I push it down? Yeah, see I'm finding pieces now that I, right there. So some pieces that I'd left to come back to later. So I'm going to start pushing those and then reestablish a bridge over the top. Nice, yeah. And then even more up here. Come on. Stick to the clay, not to my hand. Even more right there. There we go. Connects nicely there. And you can see I need more right here, where it indents. So spinning around, I have like a little Lazy Susan thing. Really critical for sculptors. Miniature, character maquette, whatever. A little dais you can very deftly make these decisions and constantly check your silhouette and see if it's doing what you had wanted it to do. So these are the big bridgey pieces of the morel brain silo slash psychic slash cultivation. That was what I was looking for earlier. Little cultivation slot, so I have lots of little stuff growing inside of here. And yeah, just using these pieces and making sure that the structure of the ridges, these big main ridges, is fully adhered and strong enough to hold up and not going to let me down. I went all the way to the side to the what I would call the little ear-like fin. So if I come back to this side, maybe I'll use this last little bit to catch up and then call that design step done for the big structure, and then I can hop around and start using my little rounded ball pieces to there it goes. To shape it somewhere. But it sticks, so you know, I don't want to introduce water. There we go. I'm kind of squeezing them like I was doing earlier. The other thing is with my pinky, I might grab and hold a piece that maybe isn't all that solid yet. So just a delicate operation we got going on here. Very that as soon as I feel comfortable. It's not gonna go anywhere. Mess up my monster clay. There we go. Cool. Looks pretty cool. And the other side. And do the same thing. So let me. As I pinch. It's better on the camera. Pinch two sides. Remember, clay has a volume. The physical world has a volume to it, so it has to go somewhere. If you're pushing the walls of clay together on each side, that clay is going to start mushing out and going, and you can kind of guide where that pinch leads to. And there we go. Kind of comes out nicely into there. And I just got one more to do there. And I got one little piece left. So that works out. So I'll pinch it. Kind of get that little fin shape prepared beforehand, and then I'll See if I can squinch that on there. And I just said squinch it on there. It's a squelch and a wench, squinch, squish. There we go. See, it's not quite on the back side yet. So if the tool isn't sticking too much, I can see it, that came right off. Don't. Don't quite know why. Maybe it likes my. Yeah, see, now it's got it here. Come on, try again. This is a. Glad I didn't record myself last night. I was completely having a battle with this. There we go. All right, and maybe let it sit and think about it for a second. I don't know. A little hole back in there. Yeah, that's the Morel cap equipable object item for Mush. See, this side's got a little bit more. I gotta maybe bring this side out. And but for now, I'm gonna let that set, and I'll come back with my other tools. So I got a little selection picked out for y'all, little spatulas and stems, and I'll definitely be using my cup of water and the ball pieces to shape more of this. So all right, let's see you on the next one.